I'm Melissa, 32. It's been a year since that fateful Christmas dinner, yet the memory still burns bright, like a scar etched deep into my soul. I can still feel the sting of my mother's words, the shock on my siblings' faces, and the weight of the truth finally set free. As I sit here, looking at the engagement ring on my finger, I'm reminded of the journey that led me to this point. It all started with a simple decision: to share my happiness with my family. Little did I know that it would shatter the fragile illusion of our family and force me to confront the painful reality I'd been running from for so long. Last Christmas, I was on top of the world. I'd just gotten engaged to the love of my life, Jake, a high school English teacher who saw me for who I truly was. And after years of hard work, I'd been promoted to senior marketing coordinator at my company. I couldn't wait to tell my family, hoping that this time, they'd finally be proud of me. I arrived at my childhood home, my arms full of carefully wrapped presents and my heart full of nervous excitement. The house was decorated exactly the same as it had been for the past 20 years, with white lights on the evergreen tree, red and gold ornaments, and the same angel topper that had been in our family since I was 5. The smell of cinnamon rolls and coffee filled the air, and Christmas music played softly from the old stereo system in the corner. My dad, Richard, greeted me at the door with a warm bear hug. "There's my marketing genius," he said, taking the presents from my arms. "How's the new position treating you?" "Actually, Dad, I have some really exciting news to share with everyone," I replied, my voice trembling with anticipation. But before I could say another word, my mom, Elizabeth, appeared in the doorway. She looked me up and down with that familiar expression of disapproval. "Melissa, what on earth are you wearing? That purple dress makes you look washed out. And your hair looks like you just rolled out of bed." I forced a smile. "Merry Christmas to you too, Mom. I actually spent an hour on my hair this morning." "Well, you should have spent 2, she replied, turning back toward the kitchen. "Your sister, Emily, looks absolutely stunning in her new black suit. You should ask her where she shops." Emily was already in the living room, looking gorgeous in a tailored black outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She worked for a prestigious law firm downtown and had the wardrobe to match. My older brother, Ryan, was sitting on the couch in his expensive watch and designer sweater, scrolling through his phone and checking messages from the hospital. He was a doctor, the golden boy in my mother's eyes. "Look who finally decided to show up," Emily said with a smirk. "We've been waiting to start presents." "I'm literally 5 minutes late because I stopped to get gas," I replied, but nobody seemed to be listening. The gift exchange was a disaster. Ryan gave everyone gift cards from high-end stores, and Mom gushed about how thoughtful and generous he was. Emily had bought our parents a weekend getaway to a fancy spa resort, which earned her 20 minutes of praise and excited planning conversations. I'd spent weeks picking out personalized gifts for everyone. For Emily, a beautiful leather briefcase with her initials engraved, and for my parents, a custom photo album filled with family pictures from the past decade that I digitized and printed myself. "Oh, how nice," my mother said, flipping through the photo album quickly. "This must have taken you some time." "I spent about 40 hours on it," I said. "I had to scan all the old photos and restore some of the damaged ones, then design the layouts." "That's sweet, dear. Ryan, show everyone that new watch your colleague gave you," she said, and just like that, the conversation moved on. As the day went on, more family members arrived. My Aunt Grace and Uncle Henry, my cousins Lily and Tom, and my grandmother Rose. The house filled with laughter and conversation, but I found myself gravitating toward the kitchen, helping my mother with dinner preparations like I always did. "The turkey needs to come out in 20 minutes, she instructed, not looking up from the potatoes she was mashing. "And someone needs to set the table." "Where's Emily?" "She's in the living room talking to Grandma Rose," I replied. "Well, she shouldn't have to worry about kitchen work." "She worked so hard during the week," my mother said. I bit my tongue. I worked just as hard during the week, but somehow, that never seemed to matter. As dinner time approached, I felt my nerves building. I'd planned to make my announcement during dessert when everyone would be relaxed and in a good mood. I kept touching the ring box in my purse, reminding myself that this was good news, happy news. But as I watched my mother light up every time Ryan mentioned his latest case or Emily talked about her recent court victory, I started to wonder if I was setting myself up for disappointment once again. Dinner was served at 3 o'clock sharp. The dining room table was set with my mother's finest china, and the conversation flowed easily around topics I'd heard 100 times before: Ryan's new medical practice, Emily's recent promotion to junior partner, Lily's wedding planning for next summer. "So, Melissa," my grandmother said during a lull in conversation, "are you still working at that little marketing company downtown?" "Yes, Grandma. And actually, I have some exciting news about that. I just got promoted to senior coordinator, which means I'll be leading my own team." Before I could continue, my mother jumped in. "Melissa thinks making pretty pictures for businesses is the same as having a real career. I keep telling her she should go back to school for something more substantial like nursing or teaching." "Marketing is a real career, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "It's actually a field that requires a lot of strategy and analysis." "And oh, that's wonderful, honey," my Aunt Grace said kindly. "Congratulations." "Thank you. And actually, I have even bigger news than that," I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out the small velvet box, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. "Jake proposed. We're engaged." There was a moment of silence, then polite congratulations from most of the table. My father's face broke into a genuine smile, and my grandmother reached over to squeeze my hand, but my mother's expression remained unchanged, almost bored. "When did this happen?" Emily asked. "In October. We went to the mountains for a weekend, and he proposed during a hike to this beautiful overlook. It was perfect," I said. "October," my mother said, her voice sharp. "You've been engaged for 2 months, and you're just telling us now. You're always so secretive, always keeping things to yourself. No wonder we never know what's going on in your life." I felt the familiar sting of criticism. "I'm not secretive, Mom. I call every week. I just wanted this to be special." "What does Jake do again?" Ryan asked, though I'd told him at least 3 times in previous conversations. "He's a high school English teacher," I replied. "A teacher?" My mother repeated the word, dripping with disappointment. "Well, I suppose that's stable employment at least." The way she said it made it clear what she was thinking. Not impressive enough, not successful enough, not good enough for her daughter. As dessert was being served, my mother launched into a detailed account of Ryan's latest professional achievements. He'd been featured in a medical journal, invited to speak at a conference in Chicago, and was being considered for a position at the university hospital. "And Emily," she continued, "just won the biggest case of her career. The settlement was in the 6 figures, and the senior partners are talking about fast tracking her to full partner." I sat there listening to the praise being heaped on my siblings, waiting for someone to circle back to my engagement or promotion, but it never happened. That's when my mother looked directly at me and said the words that would change everything between us forever. "You know, Melissa, I've been thinking about this engagement of yours, and I have to be honest. I'm worried about Jake. I mean, what kind of man proposes to you? You're 32, you work in a job that barely pays the bills, you live in that tiny apartment, and you've never really accomplished anything significant. You're the most useless child we have. I just hope Jake realizes what he's signing up for before it's too late." The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel every pair of eyes at the table staring at me, waiting to see how I would react. For the first time in my life, instead of shrinking back and taking it, I felt something different rising up inside me. It was anger, yes, but more than that, it was clarity. It was 32 years of suppressed frustration and hurt, finally finding its voice. I stood up slowly, my hands trembling with emotion, and looked my mother directly in the eyes. "Stop calling me when you need money," I said, my voice steady and clear. My mother's face fell. "What are you talking about?" she asked, but her voice had lost all its earlier authority. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. "I'm talking about the $1,500 I've been sending you every month for the past 2 years to cover your car payments because Dad's business was struggling. And the $3,000 I gave you last spring when he needed surgery and your insurance wouldn't cover all the costs." And the $2,000 I sent to help pay for Emily's bar exam fees because she'd already spent her trust fund on that trip to Europe. I held up the screen. Want to see the receipts? Because I have them all right here. Every transfer, every check, every emergency loan that somehow never got paid back. My Aunt Grace was staring at me with her mouth slightly open. My Uncle Henry had put down his fork and was listening intently. My grandmother was nodding slowly. Remember last Christmas when Ryan's student loans went into default because his new practice wasn't bringing in enough money yet? Who do you think paid those off? It was me, for $1,000 that I'd been saving for a down payment on a house. Ryan's face had gone pale. Melissa, I didn't know. Of course, you didn't know because Mom made me promise not to tell anyone. She said it would embarrass you, and that I should just consider it my contribution to the family. My contribution? As if I haven't been contributing my entire adult life. I turned back to my mother. You want to know what kind of man proposes to someone like me? The kind who sees that I've been single-handedly keeping this family financially afloat while working my supposedly meaningless job and living in my supposedly pathetic apartment. The kind who recognizes that maybe, just maybe, I've been sacrificing my own financial security and dreams to take care of everyone else. My mother began weakly. I never asked you to. You absolutely did ask. You called me crying about the car payments, panicking about Dad's surgery, begging for help with Emily's fees. And every single time I helped because that's what I thought families do. But apparently, that's what the useless child does while the successful ones get all the credit and none of the responsibility. Emily finally spoke up, her voice small. I didn't know you paid for my bar exam because I wasn't supposed to tell you. Just like I wasn't supposed to tell anyone about the money I've been lending Mom and Dad, or the payment I made on Ryan's loans, or the countless other times I've bailed this family out of financial trouble. My father said quietly, I'm so sorry, Melissa. I had no idea your mother was asking you for money because she made me promise not to tell you. She said it would hurt your pride and that as the most financially stable one, it was my responsibility to help. My mother finally found her voice again. You're being dramatic, Melissa. Families help each other. That's what we do.
No, Mom.
What families do is support each other emotionally and treat each other with respect. What you do is take my money while telling everyone how worthless I am. What you do is use me as a financial safety net while treating me like an embarrassment. I stood up and pushed my chair back from the table. Well, congratulations. You're about to find out exactly how useless I really am because as of today, the Bank of Melissa is permanently closed. The aftermath of my revelation was immediate and chaotic. Multiple conversations erupted around the table simultaneously. My mother tried to regain control, but it was too late. I walked out of the house, leaving behind a table full of shocked faces. The week following Christmas was a blur. My phone started ringing before I even made it home that evening, and it didn't stop for days. Jake flew back from his family in Seattle 2 days early and found me sitting on my couch, still in my Christmas dress, staring at my phone as it buzzed with incoming calls and text messages. I can't believe I actually did that, I kept saying. I can't believe I finally said all of that out loud. I can, he said, pulling me close. I've been waiting for you to stand up to them for 2 years. I just didn't want to push because I knew you had to get there on your own. The messages started pouring in. My father called first, his voice heavy with regret. Melissa, honey, I had no idea your mother was asking you for money. I'm so sorry. Dad, it's not just about the money. It's about the way she's treated me my entire life. The money was just the final straw. Ryan called the next day. Melissa, I feel terrible about the loan situation. I want to pay you back. It's not about paying me back, Ryan. It's about the fact that for all these years, you've been perfectly happy to assume that someone else would handle family problems while you focused on your career. You never once asked if I needed help or support. You're right, he said quietly. Emily took 3 days to call, and when she did, she was defensive. I don't understand why you're being so dramatic about this, Melissa. Families help each other out. Emily, do you remember what you said to me at dinner? You said I was the difficult one in the family. Do you have any idea how that felt coming right after Mom called me useless? My mother finally called on December 30th. Melissa, I was wrong.
I'm sorry.
I think maybe I saw myself in you, and I was harder on you because of it. I was the middle child too, and I know what it's like to feel invisible. Instead of protecting you from that feeling, I made it worse. I listened to her words, my heart heavy. The money stops, Mom. All of it. No more car payments, no more emergency loans, no more bailing anyone out. And the criticism stops, too. I'm not going to tolerate being belittled anymore, especially in front of other people. I understand. You're right to stop. We never should have put that burden on you. And I'll try to do better. Don't try, Mom. Do better, because if you can't, then Jake and I will build our life without this family's involvement. 3 months later, my life looked completely different. The constant financial stress was gone, replaced by actual savings. Jake and I opened a joint savings account and started planning our wedding and our future together. My performance at work improved noticeably. My boss noticed the change and hinted at additional promotion opportunities. You seem different lately, she said during my quarterly review. More focused, more assertive in meetings. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. The family dynamics shifted dramatically. My father and mother went to financial counseling together. Ryan started making real efforts to be present in my life, calling to check in and asking for my advice. Emily still struggled, but she was starting to come around, especially after a conversation with my grandmother. 6 months after that Christmas dinner, Jake and I were married in a small ceremony at a historic inn about an hour outside the city. The guest list was carefully curated, including only people who had shown genuine support for our relationship. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. My grandmother sat in the front row, beaming with pride. My mother was there, too, dressed beautifully and behaving perfectly, but I could see the effort it was taking her to hold back her usual commentary. During the reception, my father gave a speech that brought me to tears. Melissa has always been the heart of our family, even when we didn't appreciate her properly. She's kind, generous, hardworking, and loyal to a fault. Jake, you're not just marrying a wonderful woman. You're marrying someone who will move heaven and earth for the people she loves. Even my mother managed to say something appropriate. Melissa, I'm sorry it took me so long to see what an amazing daughter I have. I hope you and Jake build a beautiful life together. As Jake and I swayed to music in front of all the people who truly cared about us, I realized that I felt something I'd never felt before at a family gathering. Completely, genuinely happy. A year after our wedding one evening, Jake and I were having dinner when my phone rang. It was my mother. Melissa, I need to tell you something. Your father and I were at the grocery store today, and I ran into Mrs. Thompson from down the street. She was asking about you, and I found myself telling her about your promotion and your new house and how proud I am of you. And then I realized I don't think I've ever actually told you that. I felt a lump in my throat. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot. I love you, sweetheart. I should have been saying that more often, too. I love you too, Mom. After I hung up, Jake looked at me with a smile. How does it feel? Good, I said. And I'm surprised to realize I meant it. It feels really good. But also, I think I would have been okay either way. That was the real victory. I'd learned to respect myself enough to demand better treatment and to build a life that didn't depend on their approval for my happiness. I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to stop accepting unacceptable behavior. And I'd learned that the family you choose can be just as important as the family you're born into.